Hey everybody, welcome to Cars with Cocktails, a show where we join two things, drinking and driving. They go perfectly together. I am Paul. My name is Paul. I'm joined by my co-host, Charles, and as you just saw there, Faye.
Hi.
Faye, self-proclaimed.
Ooh, Paul, how many of those have you had?
I haven't even started drinking yet. I can't talk.
He had to practice.
Self-proclaimed crazy chicken lady. That's what she said. And I would say somebody who probably has the most interesting background to before joining the automotive industry that anybody that I've ever heard.
I would probably second all of those. We also have opened the door for our wonderful guest, who is, by the way, not just a guest on the show, I would say a very good personal friend of both of ours. Faye, thank you for picking the drink. Thank you for hanging with us. Now, before we get too deep, let's talk about this drink. I have yet to start, so everyone can watch the shit show that it is me as a bartender. But walk us through how to make this drink, what's it called, and how it came about.
Yeah, so this is called a swamp water, and you start with a cup. I normally don't put ice in it, but it's like over 100 degrees in here, and I'm like sweating, and I just need something cold. So you can do ice, or you cannot do ice. This says, yes, I do need all these chickens. So it's true. Yes, I do need all these chickens. I would have brought the chickens today, but they don't like to be held for like an hour. They'll be held for like 5 minutes and they get bored. Anyway, so start with a beverage cup. And I stuck some mint in there. Some mint, and that's like where this whole swamp water thing comes from. Kind of, I don't know. So the technical term for this drink is actually called a ranch water, but I have like a problem with mixing up words. So I thought I was calling it by the right thing by calling it a swamp water. And I called it a swamp water for a really long time. And then I got in a situation where I ordered it and someone made fun of me for not knowing it was a ranch water. And I was like, no, the difference is there's a sprig of mint in there that makes it look like you're in a swamp. And I kind of made it up on the spot to like keep myself from sounding like an idiot. And so
I love that you totally pulled that out of your ass, by the way, on the mint. That's fantastic. How much? So this is tequila. I have to tell you, I'm not much of a tequila drinker. So I got this adorable little 1800 bottle that's weirdly glass. I didn't know airplane bottles were glass at times.
Yeah, well, so I have a glass bottle as well, but it's much larger. And this is my personal favorite tequila. It has a chicken on it. And not only that, it has a skeleton riding a chicken into battle. So clearly this is all meat. Yeah, so you know what? That's probably a good idea. We should start with the tequila first, because then like you put the topo in and it kind of mixes it together. So yeah, one full shot of chicken tequila. Sorry, I didn't specify earlier that it had to be chicken tequila. So
damn it.
It's okay. Whatever tequila you prefer. And then here's where it gets green. This is why I thought it was swamp water, because you add half of a shot of lime juice.
Now, I have to tell you, I haven't had such great experiences with green drinks on our show. But this is I added the lime already, which we all have agreed that lime is a million times better than lemon. And it's not neon green, so I have a little bit of faith here. I'm excited.
Neon green? Oh, God. I don't even want to know what you were doing last. Okay, so then actually I do normally put in the alcohol and then the lime first, because then like when you pour the topo in, then it like mixes it all. So, yeah. And like, normally when you put mint in drinks, like you're supposed to muddle it. Nah, this is not muddled at all, because there it's like floating on top looking like a total swamp. So there we go. Swamp water. It's like my favorite thing to drink.
I was mixing one ounce of this topo. So you filled that all the way up. I see. I was like, all right.
I didn't get the fancy glass bottle. I got the plastic bottle, but I want to see if we can get that like crisp sound effect of me opening this bottle. Or what's probably going to happen is it's going to just douche all over my stuff. And
it's really sparkly.
Oh,
yeah. That's why Topo Chico is like the best mineral water ever. It is so friggin' sparkly. Now, if you like open it up and leave it by your bed and you forget about it, and then like you wake up the next morning, it's still sparkly. So it's the best.
I'm smelling it like it should have a smell.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, this is a Mexican sparkling water, mineral water, that in Texas is probably fairly prevalent. In North Carolina, where both Charles and I are, it's a slightly more of a challenge to locate. But I found it. Fortunately for me, My wife is ethnic, and I have experience with places to locate ethnic food.
What kind of ethnic? Like Mexican?
Well, she's not. No, she's Puerto Rican, but
okay.
there's a overlap in terms of some types of things. If there's any Puerto Rican people, they're probably gonna be super mad. That's not really true. Puerto Rican food's not spicy like Mexican food, but some of the things they get are similar. Whatever.
I'm pretty sure that we already discussed we're not going to talk about anything controversial.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. Seriously. Yeah.
You're breaking the code already.
We made it
Hispanic
4 minutes.
cultures is a bad idea to cover.
Cultural appropriation, you guys. This is inappropriate. Okay.
Our drink. Charles, have you tasted it yet?
I have. So in case I didn't already say this, I'm not a huge tequila drinker. An occasional margarita is about as wild as I get. This is actually pretty good. You know, Paul, it's weird. This is very similar to kind of our theme of clear alcohol, a citrus, and some sort of carbonated water. This is actually pretty good, though. Good on you, Faye. This is good.
Yes, I agree. I was not expecting it. I'm not a huge tequila fan either, other than doing shots to get hammered. That's about it. And I really enjoyed this. It does go with our theme of basically every single episode except for one has been clear liquor, tonic and or seltzer water, and some sort of citrus.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I didn't know that because I didn't have time to actually watch any of your other podcast episodes. So
it's good, though.
It's really
different. It's very different, though, than everything else we've had. Would you agree, Charles?
Yeah, I'm. It's kind of like if you had, and actually, I think this is what I like about this. If you think of like going to a restaurant and getting a margarita, and most of the time it's just like a sugary, sloppy disaster of something to drink, like you feel your teeth rotting out. If you took the majority of that sweetness and that just like overwhelmingly fake flavor out of a margarita, that's what I'm getting with this. And I really dig it. And Faye, I think you had sent a picture of like a glass rimmed with some hot sauce, salt, something or another. I tried to find that. I couldn't, but I didn't look that hard either. So
no, it's okay. Once again, it's probably another thing that you can only find in like Texas or Mexico. It's called Tajin. Tajin, and it's like basically chili, lime, salt, and it's freaking amazing.
I could see that working well. I actually, I enjoy this quite a bit, and I did not expect it. So, yeah, thank you.
And the good thing about it is that you get like your 1-to-1 ratio in. Like if I'm gonna do a shot of anything, first of all, I don't like to drink to get drunk. I don't like being drunk. I don't like that feeling of being like out of control. I just like to, relax. So, this though, I find that if you have like a 1-to-1 ratio of like shot with like, full water, then you don't feel crappy in the morning or the next day. So this is like you've built in a 1-to-1 ratio here. So it's pretty much foolproof and fail safe.
So you can literally drink unlimited and you'll never get drunk is what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing.
I drink a lot of them, actually. I do drink a lot of them. Oh, well.
That sounds like a guarantee from Faye. If you drink this, as long as it's 1-to-1, you're going to be good. So Faye, I'm listening to you talk and I'm watching the screen here. Tell us about some of that rad action that you got going on behind you, because there's some cool stuff back there.
You mean my R154 transmission or my freshly painted engine bay on my Supra or this Volkswagen engine? You probably mean the Volkswagen engine, don't you?
No, it's actually the thing that caught my eye is your Toyota flag waving in the background, but I want to hear about it all.
Oh my God, which one? You know what? Sorry, I'm going to choose for you. I asked you a question and I answered it myself. The Supra. So I think actually last we spoke, Charles, I was telling you about how I was going to move out of my shop at the end of the month and I was going to get the engine of my Supra and like drive my Supra home and everything was going to be great. And you're like, hey, that's like 10 days. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's 10 days. So obviously it didn't happen because there it is without an engine in it. Here, let me just do a little. Oh, there she's let the engine in. Everything was going really, really well up until I tried to install some gold heat tape. Now, I can't tell like the entire story because I'm actually like working on a little something, a little thing for Motor Trend that's like actually like tells the entire story. But basically, I I went to install some gold heat tape. I saw a burnt mark on the side. I was just like prepping the engine bay for dropping my engine in, which actually still is like almost done. And I went to stick some gold heat tape on the side where I'd found like all this. I don't know, like if the quality of the paint was just bad or something, but it actually turned black and charred, pretty much where my turbo and my downpipe go, like down the side. And I was like, that's a really good place to stick some gold heat tape. Now, I'm not like a gold heat tape applying expert by any means, so I stuck it on there, and it was all messed up. And I was like, I don't like that, so I had to pull it back off, and I pulled off a ton of paint. Like all of my paint just like chipped off underneath it, and I was like, oh no. And this was like a huge undertaking that I had done like back in 2015 when I was rebuilding the engine the first time. I was like, well, the engine's out, I'm going to make it look super pretty. So I welded in a bunch of
You got bit by the while you're in there. Well, by the while you're in there bug. Oh my goodness. So was that like pulling off that gold tape and having that issue with the paint? Is that what was the catalyst for then repainting the entire engine bay?
Yes, because in a panic, I called a girlfriend of mine who's a painter, and I was like, oh my gosh, you just spot paint this real quick. Like, just come here real quick. I'll buy some paint, just like touch it up, maybe just like a rattle can or something. No one will ever see. And then I'll put the gold heat tape back over it, and it'll just be like, shh, no one will know. Well, when you don't know something and you just don't know. I just didn't know. She has like the eye for paint, so she ended up looking around my entire engine bay and pointing out all the places where underneath the paint, some like, something mischievous was like a brewing. So basically, like, she started pointing around the entire place, and I started chipping up paint, and there was really not a single good spot of paint on the entire engine bay. And I totally got bit by the while you're in there bug, because while I was in there, I was like, you know what? I've always wanted to relocate my wire harness. I've always wanted to delete my ABS. I've always wanted to like weld up all these holes that I'm not using anymore. And like, I already did half of them last time. So I'm like, oh, might as well do the other half now. It got really intense. Plus I added a little pearl top coat to it, which looks really nice, which you can't tell right now, but in like the perfect light, it has like a little bit of like a purplish tint. So I went all out. And it got even worse, because now I'm not going to make it to Supers in Vegas. So I might as well do more on the engine too. I'm just a big mess. I don't know. The car's never going to be done, really, is what I'm saying.
You're living the project car life. Dude, like, it gets me in the feels. I totally, like, as you can see here, I had no intention of pulling any wiring out of the engine compartment of this R32. However,
love your R32.
Here we are.
Well, I think that obviously is an awesome kickoff into a little bit of background about Faye. I think we didn't really, mostly because I stumbled over all my words in the beginning. We didn't really get into much about your background. Is you are on Motor Trend. One of the things you do, which is a variety of things, you're on All Girls Garage, which is a Motor Trend show. So let's get a little bit of background about that. I mean, how did you even get into that in the first place? And what's that process?
So, that was a total mistake. I feel like my entire life has been a total mistake. That was a total mistake. I did not plan on it. I was not like, my goal is to be on TV someday. I've actually like never owned a television, and I honestly never watched any Motor Trend shows. Didn't even know what Motor Trend was when I was asked to audition for the show. And I actually never heard of the show, never even watched the show. But my friend Bogey is on the show already, and I had worked with her. Actually, I had like idolized her for like the first 7 years of my career. Like when I was first starting out in automotive, I had never like met or heard of another woman that was, wrenching on cars. So I just typed in the Google machine, like lady mechanic, and up popped a video of Bogey. And I was like, whoa, she's kind of like me. Like she used to have dreads. She likes the color purple. She started out on a Volkswagen. Hers was a Beetle. Mine was a Rabbit. But I totally related to her. And I was like, oh my God, she can do it. So can I. And so I had posters of her on my wall and stuff like that, but I never like watched the show. And then later on in my life, I had an opportunity. She was doing one of the all-female builds for SEMA, her first one, the Chevy Montage. And she actually reached out and contacted me, and a couple other ladies did to like work on the project. And at the time, this was like 3 years ago now, at the time I was like, oh my God, I'm so unworthy. I'm not good enough to work on a project, Bogey. And I was like, didn't want to do it, like didn't reach out. And then kept on being contacted. Finally, I was like, oh, okay, I'll try. Like, I was in a really bad place. I did not like my job. I was like feeling really lonely. I didn't have any friends because I just moved to Texas. And I'm like, okay, like I'll try this. It's like a huge risk, but I'll try it. And it ended up being like a really important part of the build. I did a ton of work to the engine. I did a ton of work to the brakes, installed the differential, a whole bunch of things that were like really crucial. And that was like a really important part of it. And it totally like changed the way that I felt about myself as a technician and my own skill level and ability. But that was like the first time that like I was sort of highlighted in the world. You know, I had like a little social media following, and I had like, you know, some DIY YouTube videos and stuff like that, but like nothing fancy. And that's what caught the producer's eye when Rachel DeBarros left the show. They of course were looking for people on social media, and Bogey actually recommended me, and I auditioned, and it went great. I showed up and I was so freaking nervous. I almost threw up like 5 times in my audition. And like they basically didn't have anything planned for us to do for the audition. They just like, we walked into the shop and there was a bunch of stuff laying around, and they're like, well, what do you want to talk about? And I looked around, I'm like, shoot, there's no Volkswagens or Toyotas. Okay. And so like they pulled out this LS engine. They're like, why don't you just like do a tutorial on like timing this thing? I'm like, okay. Cause I had seen a picture of me like timing the BMW engine for the montage. I'm like, oh, okay. And like, you know how most people start out, they go to automotive school and like everyone like takes apart like a small block Chevy, like, you know, so like something that like everyone can relate to, I feel like is one of these American timing chain driven, I don't know, like LS engines. Like they're so common, but I had actually never worked on one before. So I'm looking at that thing, I'm like, time it, craps. Like I'm looking at it, trying to figure things out, trying to turn it over. It is so built up with carbon, the thing won't even turn over. So I was like, I had no idea what I was going to do. I almost threw up on the engine like twice. And eventually I had to pull the heads off, scrape all the carbon out, put the heads back on, and like teach myself how to like time this thing while someone else was auditioning. And it ended up going great. So I was unanimously chosen, which really raised my self-esteem a little bit more and my confidence. And I was like, okay, I got this. That being said, if you watch the first episode that I'm on, I'm so uncomfortable and I'm white as a ghost because once again, I'm like going to throw up the entire episode. So I'm a little more comfortable now.
I feel like you nailed it. I feel like you nailed that not only as someone who's super awesome, but like as a technician where you're like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just going to poke shit until I figure something out. And like, lo and behold, I'm good enough to figure it out. Like, as you're saying that, I'm like, damn, like I've done a lot of car repairs where that's pretty much how I made it through. Yeah, that's so awesome, like, dude.
I wish I could have had something that I was familiar with because that would have made me feel a lot more comfortable. And actually, like after I was done, I had to like quick and catch a plane and fly back home. And I remember telling Bogey, I'm so sorry I let you down. Oh my God. And I called my mom in tears. I'm like, I bombed it. And then, you know, it's like so weird because like we have such a different perspective on ourselves than others do, you know? It's weird. But.
Well, for sure. I think the biggest thing that when you're used to living in a world, and probably Charles and I are probably way more guilty of this than you, is we live in a world where we know a lot of things about a very small amount of things.
Ding, ding, ding. Yep.
And we have a lot of depth, but very little breadth as far as our experience. And you feel anytime you're outside of that depth, it feels like you're a complete fraud because you think everybody knows that amount of things about the other stuff you're dealing with.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that you hit the nail on the head right there. And the word fraud, actually, that hits me really deep in the feels because, like, at that time too, you know, I was calling myself a Toyota technician, which I mean I am, but at the same time, like, my Toyota, my Supra, I had not figured out what happened with the engine yet. And so I was in this like 3-year hiatus talking about long-term projects. It's been a long-term project since 2014. And I'm still working on it. But there was like a point in my life where I could not figure out what was going on with the engine. And so also during that time, there I was like struggling with my own car and I couldn't get my own car to run. And actually an interesting point was that the timing was always off. I would set the timing on the car and then I would like try to run it for like a few minutes and the timing would be off again. So I thought I was like, I couldn't figure out why the timing was always messed up. And then there I was on set trying to time an engine I'd never seen before. Crazy.
That's awesome. And I think the interesting thing that I kind of led into in the intro to talking about you is your background in terms of how you even ended up from here. Because I think a lot of women who are techs or women who get into being a tech have a more linear path, I would say, to getting to being a tech than you did. So give people a little bit of a background in terms of kind of your steps of educational background to where you got to today.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, it's kind of a long story. I'll try to keep it short, but interesting. That's actually another reason why I related to Bogey so much, because she also has. So I have my degree in psychology from Harvard University. I graduated in 2010, and I felt like I really had to keep up with that path. So if you were to ask my mother, she would tell you that like I came out of the womb loving cars and loving things with wheels. Always, like I had a huge car collection. I loved rollerblading. I loved ice hockey. I had a little go-kart. I loved going fast. And I loved the idea of something that helped me go faster, from like, this big. So before I had any idea, and also like my mom was super, super open-minded. One of those parents that did not limit me based off of my gender. She was like, whatever you like, you like. So I happened to like ice hockey and cars. Awesome. She just went with it, so she let me play ice hockey with the boys. And she also like, I think I've got this awesome picture of me when I was like either turning 2 or 3. I don't know. It's hard to tell in the picture, but like there's construction equipment and like cars like all over this cake. And it's like, happy birthday, little Faye. It's like she embraced my love of it. However, my father did not. So it wasn't, but I didn't really know because he played ice hockey with me. He always encouraged like the sports side of my, love of things non-traditional, but then like did not embrace at all the idea of me working on cars. I didn't really know that though until I had like a, what are you going to be when you grow up project in, I think it was either middle school or high school. I think it was middle school. And I made this little poster. I'm like, I'm going to be a Volkswagen mechanic when I grow up because I really love Volkswagen. And he was like, oh, are you, like, is that what you actually think you're going to be? And actually just like had a conversation with me. I'm like, oh yeah, it's great. He's like, no daughter of mine is going to work blue collar. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. But he basically told me that if I was going to be happy in life, I had to make money. And I definitely come from a family of academics. There is no one, my dad could not change a spare tire to save his life. Actually, he helped me once when I had my first car and it fell off. It fell off while I was driving down the street. And
that's amazing.
He's actually he was a professional cyclist and he would take his bike to get tuned up and just and pay for it all the time. He wouldn't even tinker with his own bicycle. And I never really understood that because I loved messing with stuff. I loved taking stuff apart. I could never really get it back together as a kid, but I'm just like, why don't you like things with that? It was just, but that was the expectation in my family. Everyone in my family went to college. My mom went to Smith and my dad has his PhD in chemistry from MIT. So that was expected of me. And I was very much, despite what one may think, a daddy girl. I wanted the right thing. I was not very rebellious as a kid. I just wanted to please my parents. I wanted to do what was right. And I thought that was right to follow those expectations. So I knew that I wanted to help people. So I actually started out my degree in pre-med. And there's a crazy story of why I got rid of that career path. Actually, after we were I was working for a doctor who's curing people that have a certain type of disease using non-medication. And the FDA actually came in and shut us down. So I was like, whoa, this is how the medical system works. I don't think I can work in the medical system at all. And there was no holistic, no herbals, no nothing that was I don't know. My whole experience was how to push medication. Basically, I'm like, I don't like this. So halfway through, I had a little bit of a midlife crisis. I had I took a cross-country road trip, which is when I bought my Volkswagen Rabbit, not knowing anything about cars aside from the fact that it was really freaking cute, and drove it all the way across the country. I lived in New Hampshire at the time, and I bought it in Washington State. You can't be any further apart if you wanted to. And somehow magically, I made it back home to school just in time to start the next semester, but the engine blew up. At that point, I was like, well, crap, I'm not going to do pre-med. So I ended up getting my degree in psychology because I had enough credits. I was like, well, I want to graduate in 2 years and get this over with. And I was really interested in psychology at the time because I was really messed up and I wanted to fix myself. So it worked out, actually. I did fix myself and the problems that I had at the time. And actually, at the same time, I ended up fixing the engine in my Volkswagen during, like, I would work in the morning at a job at a coffee shop. Then I would go to school. I had two, like, working, like, jobs that were working at the school. And then after hours, I would drive to Providence, Rhode Island, and I would sweep the floors and empty oil change containers at this Volkswagen Audi shop and get experience there. Like, they would let me basically, like, keep my engine there. They Jesse is the head mechanic there and, like, really believed in me and was, like, the first person to take my love of cars and wrenching seriously and, like, took me under his wing. And that was, like, you know, that was it. It was kind of crazy because, like, I graduated. I got a job as a therapist before I even graduated, and I was making $75 an hour before I even graduated college, like, doing exactly what my degree was in, which is, like, who does that? Like, who I don't know. Like, I don't even make that much money now. Like, so I totally thought that I was, like, that I had hit success, but I wasn't happy. I just, you know, I knew something was missing. So
I mean, to me, that's a testament to, obviously, for anybody to follow kind of what will make them happy, because, you know, just because you make money doesn't make you happy.
Oh gosh, no. I mean, even still to this day, like, people have a very interesting idea of, like, you know, what TV life is like. So, like, because I'm on TV, I'm, like, super freaking rich, right? No, not at all. Like, I'm struggling to afford parts for my Supra, and, like, I still can, like, barely pay my mortgage, but, like, I'm so happy though. Like, I'm so happy doing, like, what I'm doing now. I would not change it for the world. I'm really glad I made that choice. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I think everybody loves to hear a story like that, because doing what makes you happy, you know, everybody's always kind of pushed, especially people of our age are always pushed in the direction of school, go to college, follow whatever XYZ safe thing or smart thing or whatever. And the reality is that you can do all those things right and land in a place that you hate. So why do that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. I was so pushed, and it's like, I was recently talking to my mom to try and, like, you know, figure out some parts of my story that I forgot. I was like, Mom, like, what exactly did I say? Like, you know, when I was discouraged from being a mechanic, like, what was I going to be? And she was like, well, so your next four things were, you were going to be a medium, a pirate, a truck driver, or a marine biologist. I'm like, great. I had, like, interests all across the board. I'm wondering, like, what my life would be like if I was a medium, though.
Probably I will say, knowing you, that seems appropriate for you.
I think you could have probably pulled off any of those, though. Like, I'm picturing Faye the pirate, and, like, I don't know. So as a pirate, was it more of, like, the Disney type pirate, or were you, like, some hardcore shit, like Somalian pirate? I'm
plundering and shit,
to know, you know, pillaging villages, and, well, I guess pirates don't really pillage villages, do they? I'm no pirate expert, so I'm sorry if I've offended the pirates out in the community there. I apologize for not being a pirate expert.
Well, I think it actually came from my desire of wanting to live on a boat, which I actually did do, because I did start out trying to do marine biology first before pre-med. I've had, like, a crazy life. And I lived on a boat for about a year. And that's when I realized that I get really, 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 really freaking seasick. It's like, you know, when you're out on a boat and you get seasick, like, the first 3 days and then it's fine. Okay. I never stopped puking. I lost, like, 25 pounds. Like, where? I don't know. It was the worst ever. Like, I threw up every single day living on a boat. I'm like, you know what? I can't be a pirate or a marine biologist. So, and I actually, you know, and I grew up without TV. I didn't watch a lot of Disney. So I don't know where I got this idea in my head. It must have been from books that I read. It seems like, I don't know. It just, I just like the life of adventure. So I've kind of fulfilled that with my epic road tripping, I think. That also may have been where, like, the truck driver came in. I don't know.
I love it. You've done some pretty rad things. You know, you'd mentioned while you were telling your story and how you've kind of had this really awesome path to where you are now. And there was something that you'd said about, like, your mom being super supportive, but, like, the no daughter of mine comment kind of hit home for me. Not that I was told no daughter of mine to me, but I have a daughter, so that's kind of why it hit me. Do you think that is actually the case for a lot of young women who maybe would pursue like these alternative, I'm using the world's biggest air quotes, alternative to the norm path of like being a technician like yourself or going into construction? Is that the reason that we don't see more is because that we as dudes and women too, have this mindset of like, no daughter of mine is going to get her fingernails dirty, or no daughter of mine is going to work at a place that's mostly dudes, because dudes are part of that. I will be, to be fair, is dudes are disgusting pigs. And we know as dads how dudes are. And like, I don't want my daughter to have to put up with that shit. But do you think that like, if we didn't deal with that we would see more women like yourself and Bogey in these like really awesome trades?
Gosh, that's such a good question. Because like, as you were saying that, I was imagining I was imagining my past, and like, I did all these men's sports, and like my dad did them too. So like, I don't know if like, I don't even think that was a factor for why I was being discouraged. I think for my dad, it was strictly money based. He's always been like a money chaser, and I have no idea if he's like rich or happy now. But yeah, like, I mean, I played ice hockey on the men's team. I played lacrosse on the men's team. I did like cycling as well, which is like heavily dominated by men. And I don't know, like I never had a problem like actually like, you know, melding into like a man's world or like dealing with like gross men. When my parents got divorced, I was actually like raised primarily by my father for like the most, I don't know, like impactful times of my life. And I didn't have that influence from my mother, but it was actually like my mom who did encourage me after I was already working as a therapist. You know, we were starting to rekindle our relationship and become friends again, and have a relationship again, which we now have, which is wonderful. But it was her influence that said, you know, Faye, you know, you have your degree. No one is ever going to take that away from you. You should be so proud. No one will ever be able to call you stupid. Like, you made it, you did it. But like, you don't have to stick with something you don't like, and you have nothing to prove to anybody. And if you want to pursue your dream of becoming a mechanic, then you have my blessing. And it was because she, like, every time that I talked to her, I was, you know, she asked me like, how are you doing? I'm like, oh, like, I'm doing great, Mom. I'm doing perfect. You know, how's work? Oh, it's like great. You know, what's new in your life? Oh my God, I like learned this thing. I'm like working on my engine. And like, oh my God, my Volkswagen. And like, she saw the enthusiasm, the excitement in my voice, and I was doing what I loved. And so, you know, it's so weird. Cause like, I don't like people telling me what to do at all. But for some reason, having her blessing and having her like permission almost, I mean, it was only like 19 at the time, to deviate from my path was what really catalyzed the process of me like getting into the trade. And sometimes like I kick myself, like I wish I had done it sooner, not listen to my dad. But I actually think that a lot of what we see now is less to do with the parents, but I feel like a lot more to do with, well, maybe parents too, but also a lot to do with like guidance counselors and like paths in school. You know, it's like, I have a lot of friends that are automotive shop class teachers, and they end up getting like a lot of troubled kids in their classes. And I think that there is this stigma of what an automotive technician actually is.
It shocks me. Sorry to cut you off, but it shocks me that today, it doesn't shock me that like the scholastic system as a whole has this approach still because reasons, but it shocks me today that there's still that misconception that the bad kids, the stoner kids, like that's what it was when I was in high school, the stoner kids, the burnouts, the dropouts, like that's who's going to be a technician. Bro, have you seen a fucking Tesla?
No, exactly. That's the thing. It's like, I wish that guidance counselors in today's schools would be like, wow, you're really good at problem solving. You've got an engineering brain. You're good at math. You're good at science. Like you're good at figuring things out. You're really creative. You are perfect for the trades. But instead, it's like, oh, you're getting good grades. Nah, you don't belong in the trades.
Well,
so it wasn't just my parents. It was guidance. It was school too.
Yeah, right. No, I completely agree. Sorry for cutting you off there. I think the reality is because the average person has a very reductionist view of what blue collar workers actually do. People like in the skilled trades, technicians, electricians, HVAC people, is that they're seen as essentially monkeys with wrenches banging with hammers on shit, as opposed to actual real problem solver. And let's be honest, as people in the industry. It's full of fucking idiots.
Absolutely. No, I agree. Whenever I get down on myself about my skills, I just go to another shop and see what they're doing. I'm like, all right, I'm doing fine.
Right. But at the same time, it's full of people who are extremely smart and extremely skilled and could make it in literally any career they wanted to. It just happens to be this is their choice.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I would love to think that like what little impact I have on this world, that like I help to sort of change that narrative a little bit. That, you know, that look, I could literally do anything that I wanted to. I mean, I could be a medium right now. And instead, with all of my schooling, with all of my skill set, I've chose this career path and I've been in it for 10 years now and I still freaking love it. And now actually I should say, like, just because I'm in the right place, that does not mean that it is easy and that every day is good or fun. And I feel like sometimes, I don't know if it's like millennials or like Gen Z, but there's this like crazy expectation that like work is going to be fun and fulfilling every day of your life. And I think that comes a lot from like social media and like, you know, our little highlight reels and like what we see other people doing. And we sometimes forget that like work is still work. And like, you know, if you're still going to run into challenges and there's still going to be like the shittiest days of your life in your dream job. That's a thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very very accurate depiction of what work actually looks like. As a general rule, is there's plenty of suck, but the when it doesn't suck is when you should be happy.
Well, yeah, and even like the worst day of renting for myself has still been my best day being a therapist. Not that I didn't love being a therapist, but there was just like there's something about the autonomy. And I don't know, the control, I guess, of being able to just be alone in a space with your tools and something that needs fixed, that I can actually like, get in there and fix a problem myself. Whereas as I was when I was a therapist, it's like, I could not get into these people's lives and change them for them. I had to tell them like repeatedly sometimes. And a lot of times people just wanted to be wanted to feel better. They didn't really want to change at all. They just wanted validation. And I don't really like bullshitting people. You know, like if you're doing something wrong, like I want to tell you, like you're fucking up. Like, you gotta stop doing that. You've got to that's your relationship. You've got to like stop binge eating food. Like, you know.
Whenever you present someone though with a solution to the problem that they say they're having, you know, ultimately they're the only ones that can solve the problem. And I think most people, despite the fact that they say they want to solve the problem, they say they want this, they say they want that, their actions are saying the opposite. And that's truly where you see what someone wants is in the actions that they take oftentimes. So, you know, I'm kind of with you too, like not with the schooling or any of that, because I'm pretty dumb when it comes to that. But there is something satisfying about having a piece of machinery with a problem and walking the path to fixing it and kind of being alone with that thing. Also, there is a definitive solution to said problem with people. They're fucked up, and there's not often a definitive solution to their problems that they have. So I'm on a side note, I'm still enjoying this drink. Paul makes fun of me because I drink slow, but I did go get another sweet little 1800 bottle just in case.
I was gonna say I'm on my second one.
I also poured another lime shot, but I'm also not a huge drinker anymore. So like this one might get the trick done. I'm not totally sure, but it'll probably be okay.
Yeah, I used to drink a lot more, and I've actually like kind of slowed down now. You know, in my old age, I'm turning 34 next month, so look out, world. But I actually like, I one thing that I do for myself every year, actually twice a year, once in the spring and once in the fall, is I'll do like a 30-day cleanse of all things that are bad for me, and alcohol is one of them. I usually do caffeine, but I actually I just got off a 30-day cleanse But this time I actually did not give a puppy. I kept the coffee. But yeah,
do you also get rid of all social media contact of any kind whatsoever during that time?
Oh, that's a good one. I have not done that in a while, but I need to. I will do that every now and then, like for a week, and I'll just like schedule posts ahead of time. It's like social media sometimes like becomes a little bit more of a job than it does like a fun thing when you feel like you got to keep up with like posting about things to like stay relevant for like that next sponsor or the next project, or or just to like I don't know, stay in the game. It's like the dumbest thing. Like it used to be really fun. And then I definitely went through a phase where I just like resented everything that I posted because I just was in a not good place. But now I'm back to like posting about the Supra and this project. And so like everything I post is a joy. But yeah, like definitely whenever I feel super negative and I'm not enjoying like sharing my experience with the world, then I take it back. I'll be like, you know what? I need to do 48 hours or 72 hours or a week. I think that's a healthy thing. Not a lot of people do that.
No, I think if you're not kind of in this space as your job or your business is really a much more accurate way to say it, you maybe don't understand how hamster wheelish.
That's what I would say. Hamster
wheelie, not a hamster doing a wheelie, a hamster on a wheel. That this really can be in keeping up with what to post here, what to post here, what to post here, what to post on YouTube, how to do all this. It can be overwhelming at times and taxing and really take some of the fun. Because I do think overall, at least for me, part of the project is sharing the project in kind of different and creative and cool, fun ways. And it can get overwhelming. So I'm feeling, I'm not feeling that now. I'm actually like riding this really good train. I think it's because I have this really cool car that I'm kind of in love with working on right now. And I'm in it for so little money that makes it much more stomachable. I'm just going to make fucking words up the whole rest of the day. What's that?
I was about to say I could relate, but then you said the money part. Yeah.
Oh, don't worry, Faye. I'm only in it so little money purchasing the car. I don't even want to talk about the dollars that I have already paid and have zero to show for it in this car because my wife. I had to warn her. I'm like, all right, honey, look, there's going to be a charge on the card for some stuff I ordered for this car. Keep in mind, it's a business expense. And she's like, oh, okay, no problem. And then she's like, what the shit did you buy? I'm like, it's a business expense. She's like,
Thankfully, my husband and I have like completely different like checking accounts, and we don't even like get in each other's finances at all. We just have like a joint account for all the joint bills, and we put like the same amount of money in there, and then like automatic payments come out. Like we never really see it or like talk about it. Otherwise, I'd probably have a similar discussion too. But I gotta say, this has been such a long-term project that actually it was interesting. I was talking to my husband about this the other day because I'm like, holy crap! Like I'm back in exactly the same place that I was when you met me. Like that's how long I've been doing this project. So when he met me, I was literally working the entire day at my shop, Automotive Auto, and then I would spend all evening, like well into the night, like 10, 11, sometimes midnight at the shop working on the car. And that was my life. And that is exactly how I was when he met me, and nothing's changed. So I'm lucky that I set that expectation like right off the bat with like just the sort of person that I was and the sort of money I spend on my project. That it wasn't like, oh, surprise, by the way, I have like a really crazy like high shoe hat or something. Like now, but I still super a piece of work. Whoops.
So what are you going to be doing more YouTube stuff around that car? Is that the plan?
Yeah, I'm actually currently, yes, I will be. I've got to wait for something to come out first because I don't, you can't like share clips. I don't know. So I don't know if you watched you probably didn't because who has time for that? But I did like a working from home on Motor Trend about this car and like the backstory and how I built the engine in 2015 and then had like lousy machine work done. So I'm building the engine all over again. So they asked me to do another one. because apparently my first one was really popular, which is like,
that's cool.
I don't know.
So you had bad machine work done on the original engine?
Yes. And it was crazy because remember I was telling you earlier about like feeling like a fraud and not being able to get my engine running. There was one thing that I paid someone else to do on the engine, and that was the machine work, because I'm not a machinist and I don't have those like hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment that you'd need to like do all that work. So yeah, I bought the car with a blown head gasket. Surprise, surprise, it's 7M, and it needed a bunch of work. I also wanted to change to ARP bolts and a metal head gasket. So you need like a certain finish. So I needed my head decked. It also was warped because, surprise, surprise, it overheated, because they all do. And so I brought it to a machine shop that was like known for doing like 2 JZs and 1 JZs. I'm like, well, the 7M is, it's like the precursor to that. So these people should be great at it. They made a super stupid mistake. And that was that they machined the head without checking for straightness. And this thing was warped like crazy.
They didn't check straightness?
But for like 4 years, did not check straightness.
That's crazy.
No. Nope. And I didn't know, I did not know any better. I did not know anything about the machining world at the time. So that's why my timing was always changing. To go back to the All Girls Garage audition. So yeah, I put everything back together, thinking nothing of it. And it's like, I didn't think anything of it, because like once I never actually like put the cams in without like the whole valve train. So I never like actually felt how the cam should spin, which is like, I mean, when you bolt the cams in theory, like nothing should be touching, right? Because they just ride on a film of oil. There's no cam bearing. It's like you should spin the cams, and it should be like I should be able to blow air at it and they should spin. Well, I never really experienced that, because I put everything together, thought nothing of it. And like you get a little bit of resistance when you put the cylinder head on, like you're fighting with the valve springs. I never second guessed. I never checked the work of the machine shop. I just assumed that they did a good job. I assumed they did right by me. And they did not. That's also happened with the engine bay paint. Like next working from home episode is the other thing I paid someone else to do, paint my engine bay. And that went awfully too. Everything that I paid someone else to do has ended up being a total flop. And I don't want to paint. Like I hate body work. I hate sanding. I will never do this again. You better be good this time. It was terrible. But yeah, I literally went through everything else on the engine before I checked someone else's work. And I think that's like been my biggest challenge in automotive at all, is like having faith in my own ability and like putting my, like, I don't know, I put others so far above myself. I will believe someone else a million times before I believe myself. And that has burned me. That's a lesson I've had to learn over and over and over and over again.
Well, I think the bad thing about people
my cylinder is warped.
Is the people who aren't second guessing themselves. Those are the ones who are a problem, and they're the ones who spit out the garbage work because they're not second guessing themselves. They're not worried. They don't have that thought at night. Obviously I haven't been a technician in a very long time, but that like, oh shit, did I tighten that thing?
Oh my gosh. The amount of times where I've woken up in the middle of the night going, did I tighten that valve cover gasket bolt? The back one that's kind of a pain in the ass? Did I tighten that wheel? Fuck, I worked on 5 cars today. Did I tighten any wheels? Did I put oil in any cars that I work on today? And now I'm like hyperventilating from having to worry about all this shit that I definitely didn't do, and all the cars that when I get there in the morning are going to be have come in on the hook. And that's a tough, dude, it pisses me off because I understand and can relate that like and the good part about what you said about the machine work is it allows us to put ourselves in our customers' shoes when they're trusting us to do this stuff for them because they don't know how, or they don't have the equipment, or there's a fly in their face. Right? They're bringing their car, even if it's something simple like an oil change, they're bringing it to the pro, just like you're taking it to the machinist. You shouldn't have to fucking double check behind their ass. You're paying the professional to do that shit. Like, now I'm all stressed out, Faye. I got this engine sitting over here. It's going to be going to the machine shop. A dude I've never used before. I'm like, shit, this guy better not do a shitty
just send
job.
It to me. I work at a machine shop now.
I know, but like, this dude is here, and no, I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not going to.
Shipping engines is, oh no, it's okay. No, it's okay. Well, I learned this is actually a pretty common problem. I mean, it's an inline 6-cylinder. It's long. It's aluminum. They warp. They all overheat. I learned that now, but yeah, I mean, I think it's something that flight rate teaches us too, which is a total bummer. Is that we've got to be so fast. And a lot of my YouTube videos, the thing that I sort of hit home with, by the way, if my fan is I have like one pathetic little fan and I'm like dying of heat, so it's on, but it has a bad bearing, so it makes this terrible squeaking noise.
Can't even hear it.
It's like ruining this. Okay, perfect. It's bothering me. I wasn't sure if it's bothering you. So one thing that I always show in my YouTube videos is like the fail safes that I use to make sure that I stay sane. I take a lot of pictures with my phone. I do a lot of paint mark. Like even after being a tech for 7 years, I still will like leave little notes to self, snap pictures, so that when I'm panicking at like 2:00 in the morning and I wake up and like, I can go back in my pictures and be like, okay, I did torque that,
Hey, this real quick, Faye, this is for you.
Oh.
15 years of working on Volkswagens, I still do this shit because it takes 4 seconds to do this. It's a lot harder to fix a block when you bust through a water jacket because you put the wrong bolt in the wrong hole.
Yeah,
no, exactly.
It's funny.
Once and like you.
In terms of machining work, we had a car at the shop about a year and a half ago that was a fucking nightmare. And machine shop that, I've been in the Charlotte area for a long time. I worked at a dealer before I was here. Machine shop that I've used for probably 15 years. Did a head for us, checked it, cleaned it up, whatever, put valves in it. And I think it had been overheated, if my memory serves correctly. He knew about it, decked it, whatever. We get it, we install it on the car, it immediately bends the valves. And I'm like, oh, fuck, here we go. Like, our tech fucked up the timing. We bent the valves, whatever. We double-check timing. Perfect. Everything's dead nuts on. We check it. We yank the head off again, whatever. We start checking the depth of the cylinder, because obviously you can't really check thickness for machining work after the fact. We start checking the depth of thickness in the cylinder. Well, maybe you know better than me. But we start checking the cylinder hole of like the comparison between each cylinder. What the far side of the head had been machined too thin.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. And that's like something that I've learned too, is that like it takes 5 seconds to put a straight edge on a cylinder head and just like double check it. I never thought of that before. And there's also like when you have a cylinder head that's been overheated and that's warped so much, like it's not going to necessarily like warp evenly. So what actually, I don't know if you've watched my YouTube video, but it's freaking crazy. Like the machinist, my friend Danny is like the most amazing machinist ever. He actually, I don't know if you're ready for this, but he actually heated up my cylinder head with a freaking torch and used a press and pressed it back into shape. And when it was pressed back into shape, then he sort of welded on it in a way to like make those the molecules of the magnet about, and then he machined it. But once it was back into place, he didn't have to take anything off. Like the thickness of the head really changes when you refinish it. And what I hey, if it's a pinch and you have a customer who has a cylinder head that's been warped, don't resurface it at all. Don't refinish it. Just put a new head gasket on, put new bolts on, because that way you'll bolt it down and it will straighten itself out as you torque down the head bolt. You're doing more of a service to the customer than trying to straighten the head that's like been warped, because then you lock the cam into like forever crookedness, I guess. I don't know. It's crazy because like when you think of machine work, it's, yeah, all right, clean it, pressure test it for leaks, surface it, do a valve job, you're done. There's so much more to it than that. in terms of just like a quick check. It also takes like 5 seconds to pull vacuum on every single valve and double check machine work. Is that something that I would do if I was like working flat rate? Well, like, no. I would just get it, assume that it was good, and put it on.
What's sad too is that that's a dying art, and it's not like there's a line of youngsters, these kids today, lining up to be machinists, and it's unfortunate because when Danny retires, is there someone to fill that role and that need? And unfortunately, in my experience, the answer is no. I mean, maybe for Danny, hopefully specifically. By the way, I love y'all's book series and getting drunk on YouTube Live. That shit is hilarious. If you guys that are watching or listening, if you guys that are watching or listening have not seen their YouTube series, their Automotive Book Club, it's really, really great. And they like, we get a little tipsy. Dude, some of that shit, y'all look smashed, and it's hilarious, and I love it.
It's amazing. It's amazing, but then we also talk about topics that are like really, I mean, if you can't tell, we're both like super passionate about a lot of the same things. So like, for example, we're both super freaking passionate about engine oil. So if you get us talking about engine oil, oh my God, we start yelling, like crying over engine oil.
Hey, what's the best oil for my car?
It depends on which one.
No. It was kind of a, so if if you're ever in, and I don't recommend it because Facebook is just the fucking cesspool of the planet.
No, I don't do Facebook.
But legit, every Facebook group at least once a day, probably, Paul. How many times do you see this in all the groups that you're in? What's the best oil for my car?
Enough to make me want to commit suicide on a regular basis.
It is ridiculous. So we've been chatting for an hour or so, give or take. And I, Faye, have a couple of rapid fire questions. We have unlimited time. So it's fine there. I'm not rushing anybody off. But I have some questions that I need to ask you. It's pouring rain outside. Before we even consider wrapping it up, first question, what in your toolbox is your favorite tool that you own?
Oh my God, my flashlight. Not even kidding.
I am not upset about that. Next question, if you could own any tool out there.
Actually.
Your handgun? Is that what you said?
Yeah, it was my toolbox.
How many cars have you fixed with that? Right, how many cars have fixed themselves via threat of that, though, is probably a better question. You better act right. You know
what makes me feel a lot. Well, don't forget, I used to be a mobile mechanic. That was probably the tool that, especially like little me, you know. So yeah, I used to be a mobile mechanic when I was first new to San Antonio, and I didn't know any of the neighborhoods, so I ended up in some places. I'm just like, I don't want to be here. But I still, had to make money, had to get the job done. So I think if there's a lot of money I would have made, it would not have gotten that I had not had that special service tool. So.
But that's in Texas. Everybody's assumed to have a gun in Texas.
This is true. Yeah, actually, in fact, as soon as I crossed the border into Texas, I got my first truck, and I was basically like handed a truck, a cowboy hat, and a gun. So yeah, that's how it works around here.
I applaud that. I think North Carolina used to be that way. However, the winds of change are here. All right, so
no, absolutely.
Let's not go down that path because I'm like teetering. Anyway, next question: if you could buy one new tool, what would that one new tool be?
Ooh, I would get a really nice drill press. I really, really, really love the drill press at Danny's shop because, like, let me tell you, a drill and like all the stupid dull drill bits I have around here piss me off all the time. And I made this really cool bracket for my winch the other day. I just went in like Danny's drill press in like 5 seconds. I'm like, holes are done. I would get a really nice drill press and I would love it.
So maybe instead of the drill press, you just need some sharp drill bits.
I also always drill things crooked. Like I like when it's just like there, and it's like everything is in control and like it's in its own little space. What else? that's like most prominent in my mind because I just used it and it like was a life changer. So I also would say a lift, but it's not gonna fit in here. So I can't lift. My ceiling's really low.
You have to get a half.
But I am jealous of your. So I have Quickjacks actually.
Oh, there you go.
And I just got them and they are amazing. Have you used Quickjacks before?
Yes, I have. Jason has a set. When we supercharged his S2000, we did that, and it is infinitely better than working on jack stands. Anybody that like says they prefer working on jack stands to something else, I think has just never worked on anything else. Because let's be honest, working on jack stands sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm over it.
You do it when you got to do it, and I feel that, but. Dude, if you can do anything else, plus it's like a million times safer. I feel like with the Quickjacks. So good.
Oh, absolutely. I've had some close calls with the mobile technician. Oh,
yikes!
Not good. But anyway, all right, rapid fire.
That was all I had. Actually, rapid fire. I do have more. I'm just I have to unlock my phone to look at them.
Oh no!
So I'm feeling super lazy and whatnot. But so you mentioned though mobile mechanic. That's pretty awesome. I think today, right now, 2020, there's a lot of really rad opportunity for mobile mechanic, both on the like repair side where you're legit like going to someone's house and doing brakes on their car or whatever, like fixing, diagnosing check engine lights. I really think though there is a huge opportunity for someone that's committed to making the initial investment, which I think is a lot lower than a lot of people think.
It was nothing.
And doing mobile key programming, mobile module programming, mobile like legit diagnosis, not as my friend Mike who works for NGK would say, triagnosis, where we just load the fucking parts cannon up and blast shit on it until the customer stops complaining. We don't care if it's fixed or not, just as long as the customer's not complaining. But if y'all are looking for a way to get out of the dealership, because I know a lot of guys and a lot of girls are like, I love working on cars. This is my passion. I'm good at it. I hate working at the dealer. I hate working under warranty times, which, Paul, I do agree with you. That's a good topic for conversation. That is an area where I think you could fucking crush it. You can make a ton of money, and you kind of do set your own schedule, like all the really great things about running your own business. Mobile programming, it's huge. Yeah, and it will only get more prominent in the future. And you don't have to get dirty, which is kind of my favorite thing in the planet.
I love that idea. But I also have to say, okay, so yeah, very small investment for me when I was just a mobile technician. And especially right now, I have gotten back into it. A lot of my customers did not feel comfortable coming to my shop or the dealership or wherever. I have done more house calls lately. Like I've gone back into mobile mechanicking recently. That and I closed down my actual physical location for other reasons, but we won't get there. I have to say though, you guys, I had an amazing dealership experience. And sometimes it's going to sound crazy because it's probably the opposite of what you both think for yourselves. But like, I still to this day have a job application taped to my bathroom mirror. And I have that as my out, like my safe space to go. If I ever think that like this is all too hard. And some days I just think that, it is too hard. Like I mean not too hard because obviously I'm still doing it, but like I never imagined that I would ever be on TV at all. I love working with Bogey, my friend, doing fun, crazy, cool projects. I love, it's like a mini vacation. I love going out there because I don't have to order the parts. I don't have to deal with the customer. I don't have to like plan the cars. Like they just show up and all I have to do is rent with my friend. Like it's literally the perfect deal. The only thing that's not perfect about it is the fact that it's on TV. The part that is lousy about it is, the way that people treat you on the internet, in person. You don't have privacy anymore. I can no longer walk to 7-Eleven in my pajamas and no makeup and not have to take a selfie with somebody. That
actually happens to Paul too all the time. He can't wear his pajamas out in public anymore. Yeah.
That's not true.
No,
That's not true. No, that's not true. I am the most generic white guy looking person you could ever imagine. So people only recognize me in context, which is certainly fine with me. I'm not like you, which is a different dynamic. But Charles also is much more recognizable because of the whole
the beard
situation. People either assume that he's Aaron from Fast and Loud, or he's him, and 50% of the time they're going to be right. So inevitably, someone's going to recognize him, whether it's him or somebody else for who he actually is. So, but yeah, I mean, certainly being a woman in that dynamic is something. I've never received a dick pic from somebody who's interested in the work that I do, which I imagine now I might.
Yeah, you're totally getting one, Paul. Actually, let me get my phone here. Hang on a second.
For some reason, I've like stopped getting them as of recently. It was a huge problem for a while.
I would imagine so.
Like, what do you think I'm going to say? Like, do you think I'm going to look at that and be like, oh my God, we have to meet up like now? What do you think is going to come out of that? Like,
bro, that shit is so awesome. Wow. I think, like, for dudes, for real, like,
I've never understood the goal, honestly. I don't even know what the goal is.
And there's never any context. So, like, I mean, and it's like, it's not like I'm a porn. It's not like you're like reaction, right? I mean, there are people that do that, like you send in a picture and they do like a reaction and then like you pay for it. Like, this is literally completely unsolicited. There's like, I try very hard to ensure that all images that I put there are like, genuinely are like work appropriate. Like, I literally have 2 outfits, my shop shirt or super shirt, and you'll notice that I'm wearing currently a super shirt. Which is also why I easily get recognized out in public. It's like, okay, I'm literally wearing a shirt with my name or a shirt with a Supra or something super related on it. So I'm just like, okay. But I don't feel like buying new clothes. I feel like there's nothing about my personality that like sexualizes me. But people will do that anyway. So it happens.
Yeah, I definitely can. I empathize with your situation. I certainly am never in that situation. I think something interesting. Maybe you have it. Maybe you don't. Can you share with us something that may be the funniest version of a creepy guy that you have in terms of a story of a weird creepy guy doing a weird creepy guy thing?
Oh my gosh, I've got a lot. I've had people actually. So recently, one of the major reasons why I moved out of my shop was because I was doxxed. I had the location given out, and I tried to like keep my location of my shop kind of like on the down low because people would just like show up randomly and expect me to like spend several hours with them,
hang out with them,
like listening to their life story.
I know that's
yeah. I'm like, dude, like this light. What's that?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Oh yeah. So people would show up and that was crazy. But no, I get a lot of like pictures of my feet. And I get a lot of I get some poems. I get love letters, which is lovely. I don't know what the
are they good? Like, are they good though, or are they like, dude, you need to like, you suck at writing poems. No wonder you're just sending rando poems out. Or some like, wow, that's really good and thoughtful.
I got a really good poem once. I was like, oh my God, I love this. I read it and then like, I was like, okay, that's great. But I will say that for as many like positive messages that I get in the mail, that one actually did not come accompanied with a dick pic, but it probably should have. I also get like a lot of hate mail too. That's like, okay, actually the funniest piece of mail that I've gotten was on a typewriter. Not even kidding. The envelope was typewritten with my address and a no return address because this person had like literally no balls probably. And then like typewritten out a note to me. And it was a couple months ago, so I can't really remember exactly what it said, but it was something to the effect of, mechanic, my ass. You so fucking ugly. You should paint that black stuff all over your face so no one can see you. I'm like, okay, you took time out of your life to typewrite this to me. Find my fan mail address, send it to me, and like that was a part of your life you will never get back, just trying to like make my day worse. And I'm literally laughing at you. I thought it was so funny. I shared it with all my friends. I'm like, look at this. Like people have like very polarized reactions to me. They either like love me or they freaking hate me. I don't know. It's great though. It's good.
That's good. It's better. It's better than apathy. That's for sure.
Absolutely. But like the people that ask for pictures of my feet, you guys, I roller skate. My feet are so gross. Like I have calluses all over my feet. I do not get pedicures.
Faye, I think you're making it worse. Stop talking about it. You're going to get even more requests. Or, dude, just capitalize on that shit and make some damn side scratch off that. Like, that's how you're going to pay for that Supra engine rebuild, man.
Yeah, I thought about that, but I don't know. I can't whore myself out. I mean, maybe eventually someday, because even the Great Smoky Eunuch sold out at the end of the day. But back to the topic of engine oil. Everyone, eventually y'all sell out, especially like when you've been burned so many times. So I don't know. We'll see when I sell out, or maybe I'll never sell out.
Feet pics coming soon to an OnlyFans near you.
So can I rapid fire you guys?
Sure.
Okay. Charles and Paul, who is your automotive hero? Do you have one?
Mine's Paul.
Yeah, I don't know.
Paul's is also Paul.
Yeah. There's obviously a lot of people in the automotive industry that I would say both of us probably are impressed by, but I don't know about Charles, but myself, I don't really look at somebody and maybe see somebody who has the exact path that I have taken that's in a place where I want to get to. I think mostly because I think all of us have taken a pretty unique path that nobody's path really looks quite like mine. And I think Charles probably falls into the same boat because, I mean, even this path didn't even exist before us. YouTuber, influencer, bullshit, whatever you want to call it for Charles. And even I fall into that same boat as well, in a different way. It wasn't a thing 10 years ago.
Yeah, I try not to, and I'm already forgetting whether you said like hero or biggest influence, or maybe you didn't say either one of those things, and I just, made up what I assumed you said. I try not to really deal in that space. Like, I look at someone and I look at their accomplishments and look at what they've done or like their approach to a certain problem, and I try to take that one little aspect of what I like about what they did or where they are and say, okay, that's really awesome. I have a lot of respect for that. I'm very proud of that for them. Maybe there's some of that I can incorporate into what I do. And I try really hard to stop there, because the deeper down that rabbit hole you go, at least in my experience, oftentimes you find things that maybe you don't agree with. And I like to have like truth is truth where it's truth. And I like to take that approach more so than like this dude or this chick is on the pedestal and everything they do is really awesome. So I try to just take it more as like an individual thing. This guy's amazing at running a picoscope and knows the thing. This is a great machinist, so I'm going to learn what I can from them. This guy's amazing with customers and their interaction, and the way they approach problems that way is really good. And I have to say, though, I'm far more disappointed with people in the automotive industry than whatever the word I'm trying to think of would be.
That you fanboy over them.
Yeah, like I definitely don't fanboy over anybody in the automotive industry. But I'm just far more disappointed because it's a really great industry. It has a lot of fucked up problems. The majority of people probably shouldn't be in it. And the majority of people that are in it fucking make it worse and do no good for it. They just bitch how bad it sucks, but they don't want to put the work in to change even themselves. Kind of as we talked about before. And so fucking get out, do something different. I don't know. It's really like the more I think about it, the more bummed out I get. Like, shit, maybe I should be fucking idolizing someone. And I just don't. Like, I have a lot of respect for a lot of people that some have done amazing things for big brands. I've been listening to the Elon Musk book about like SpaceX and Tesla and that, and like the dude's probably a complete fucking dickhead. I obviously I've never met him, so I don't know, but he's done some amazing things for the automotive industry. But I don't want to peel back the curtain too much because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things where I'm like, wow, you're a straight shitbag.
Oh my God.
Sorry, Elon Musk, if you ever listen to this, I don't know if you're actually a shitbag.
No, he's definitely a shitbag. I hate him and I hate Tesla, but that's a topic for another time. First of all, like everything you said there, oh my God, I can relate to that so much. It was so beautiful. I kind of like, I wish that I could take that little soundbite and put it on social media because I feel like there are so many people that need to hear that because, I don't know, millennials, Gen Z, once again, like we grew up in this era of like, of idols. And maybe that's not just my generation, but like, you know, whether it's like someone on MTV or like, you know, a singer or an actor, it's like you look at someone and you just assume that they're perfect. And like, you forget that your goal is not to be someone else, it's to be the best version of yourself. And you can become influenced by people, you can be impressed by people, but you're not in competition with those people.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, I agree with that. I think all of those are, I completely agree with all of it. The thing that I think a lot of people may not realize is maybe if you looked at somebody who you might think is more successful than yourself, right? So for me, you could easily say it's business or whatever, and you could look at a business in my space and look at somebody who's bigger than us. Is okay, what would it take for us to get there? And sometimes that's a matter of maybe taking on money and taking on funding from venture capital. Sometimes it's a matter of a bunch of other things, whatever. Ultimately, for me, what I've always made about those decisions is that's not something I'm willing to do to get to the place where they are, and I'd rather just grind it out to get there instead of to try to make the fast way there. And for me, that's because I have to give up a lot to in terms of decision-making ability, in terms of choices of what I feel like is the right choice for my people or people around me, our customer base, whatever it may be. And I think that's true for everybody, is that to get to where the people who most people might idolize is that you might have to make sacrifices that you're not actually willing to really make if you actually thought about it or really wrote it down on paper, the shit you'd have to actually do to get to be that person. And I'd rather just be happy with who I am in my life instead of the FOMO that people have, I think, of wishing they could be somebody, have the thing that those people have, the house they have, the cars they have, or whatever the fuck it may be. Material shit's stupid, so it doesn't really matter. But he
didn't say that, Supra.
Yeah, I mean, stuff is cool. Don't get me wrong. I like cool shit. We got a lot of cool cars and projects and blah, 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 whatever. But the idea that that's going to make you happy is ridiculous.
Absolutely.
And I just think a lot of people don't realize to get to the stages of where that next person is may require you to make sacrifices that you may not be willing to make for your own lifestyle. Forget about wherever your aspirations are, just for your happiness of your life, your family, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. And that's such a good point too, because sometimes it's like, it's so interesting because what I meant by the question was so different than how you answered it. And I'm wondering if that's something that we need to do a better job of sort of sharing with people who might follow us or be influenced by us. And I've actually had that problem a lot in my personal life where I've had friends turn into fans, then turn into competition, which, without knowing, and then turn into people that hate me because they set this bar for themselves that is I like Faye, I want to be like Faye. And it's do you really want to be like me though? Because if you look closely at my life, I'm a freaking mess. I barely get things done the way I want to get them done. No one is perfect, but there are definitely people in my life that I'm influenced by immensely in the automotive industry that have nothing to do with the way that they succeeded in the automotive industry. If that makes any sense. And it's we can draw so much from those that we look up to without necessarily taking on all of their characteristics or designing our business around them. looking up to others or being influenced by others can be a lot more than copying or trying to emulate their every single move. And I feel like that's what we sort of miss. It's like we're so quick to put ourselves into boxes or into categories, or like get into this group or that group, or like categorize myself as like a part of this movement, or I'm one of you. And instead we forget that like all that we really should be doing is every single day being a better version of ourselves, and that our only competition is the person we were yesterday. Are we improving? Are we making positive steps towards the life that we want to create for ourselves in any space? And the reason why I asked that question is actually because I was thinking about how my life has changed so much with shifting that viewpoint of like wanting to be someone else to like being influenced by other people in the way that they are sort of like unapologetically themselves, and striving to be more like that. So less of like their accomplishments, because I will never accomplish the things that others have accomplished in their lives. But, that idea of being more true to myself. And like, that's the most beautiful thing when you get to a point where you're like, no one else can fill this space the way that I do. No one can be a better me. I'm not trying to be the best mechanic out there, or like the best female mechanic out there, or like the best known, or like, I'm not trying to be any of these things. I just want to be a better version of myself. And however that looks, that might not being better, like that might not be like improving on my wrenching skills, that may be improving my life balance or my mental health, or working out more, or like I don't know, it might be something else totally different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
Yeah, you totally nailed it, and I don't have anything to add, despite the fact that I wish I did, but I don't. So why say something when someone else said it better?
Yeah. Well, that's this episode. And Faye, tell people where they can check you out.
Yeah, Faye, promote some shit, dude.
Oh my gosh. You can find me on Instagram at Pistons and Pixie Dust. You can find me on YouTube at Faye Hadley. And you can find me on Motor Trend, the Motor Trend channel, on Saturday and Sunday mornings.
And FayeFeetPics.com coming soon, I think.
Ew, they're gross. No, you
don't tempt people. I think that's the point.
You're gonna get some rabid, gross feet pic requests.
I think people pay more for that. I don't know. That's not a space I'm educated on. So I just I make assumptions that people are gross and want gross things, and
people are really gross. But just I don't know. Deal with it. All right. Well, thanks so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
All right. See you later, guys.